Hello friends, thanks for joining me again. In front of you is a weekly chart of M7T on the Australian Stock Exchange. It's a chart suggestion that was offered to me late last year. I put it on a watch list, but I've not traded it. You can see down here, price began uptrending about a year ago. You had some previous highs coming through here, and to deal with them, the market goes through this process where it accelerates through, it goes through a period of absorption. It looked like it was going to continue high here, but came back and tested the strength and found that selling pressure was low. And then it resumed its uptrend again. Now here, I've got a video on this sort of thing. Here was a breakdown bar, but only a minor one, on an increase in volume. It closed below the lows of a number of previous bars. There was definite buying on the next bar. There was no selling pressure on the next bar. And the fourth bar, or a month later, price closed clearly above the lows of the initial down bar. This is like a shakeout. There's accumulation in this bar as well. This is generally a bullish sign. So if you go back and look at my video on bullish reversals, this is exactly, almost textbook to what I'm talking about on that video. And this is the key here, to close back above the highs of the initial down bar. So price continued higher, although spread was a little narrow there. And you'll see the volume was not particularly high. Then there was an absorption bar. Now this bar saw a bit of supply coming in. Here's the volume. So volume was increased. The close was below the high, about midway, and the next bar was down. So there was a little bit of supply just here, some selling pressure. But the market resolved pretty quick. You can see here, there's no selling pressure on this bar. That's here. And no selling pressure on this bar. That's down here. So in response, there's an absorption bar and price continues higher. Now here's the previous high here, but this bar, when I'm watching it on a weekly basis on my watch list, was a bit of a concern for me. Prices gapped up from the previous close. Volume is the highest it's been for many, many weeks. Prices closed well below halfway. And the next two bars were not able to generate any upside follow through. In fact, the very next bar showed a lack of demand. While there was a lack of selling pressure, I imagine price initially moved lower and then moved higher. But there was a lack of selling pressure, but a lack of demand. The next bar after that, this bar was higher. Then there was a second bar where prices dipped lower and then gone nowhere higher. Following that is some sort of unusual test for supply and then a breakdown. You have to be a bit concerned there. For me, someone or some group was selling, taking profits in here, and they were using any demand that was left in the market to sell into. Someone left the market here. So you had this breakdown bar. It wasn't on particularly high volume, but the lack of demand in the market saw that price had to stretch lower to draw out enough buyers to satisfy the selling pressure. A little bit of demand came back here, and here there was actually buying in the market. You see spreads narrowed considerably. It's closed off its low. The volume's above the average, and the next bar is up. So buying came in here, there's no doubt. Price then tests for a couple of bars here, but there's no ability to recover the previous highs. You can see here, volume increased back up to average, but it drew out supply again. So anyone who was trapped in here was selling to get out. Price then pushed back, but then found demand has come back in again here. So if this is your previous high here, you've got selling pressure up here, and now you've got reasonable demand coming in down here and here. You really need to wait and see what happens in response before you take any position in this. You've got selling pressure above you. Whether that's going to be ongoing or not is uncertain. It may be that someone's left the market. It may be that the driver of the stock, who was generating the initial uptrend back here, is now out. If price breaks clearly below this level and then proves that it can't regain it again, odds are it'll head lower. If price can instead regain the previous highs, possibly test it for strength, it's in a position where it could go higher. At this point, uncertainty abounds. It's not uncommon for the market to be in a bit of a quandary where it could go either way. You just need to wait and watch the chart, look where support and resistance are expected to be, and in response, at times, a new trade will appear. You just have to wait for it to set up. I do suggest you have a look at my video on bullish reversals. This was quite a beautiful example of a bullish reversal, and it may still prove to be more successful in perhaps a drawn out sort of manner. Perhaps the market's just got ahead of itself a bit here and is waiting in here to reaccumulate and then push higher again in response. But for me, there's little doubt somebody sold in here. Now, some might say we've got a head and shoulders developing here. I don't really go for the geometric patterns too much, but I can see what they would say, and you would need for this level to be broken for it to become a valid pattern. So where I was saying before that if price broke clearly below this level, showed an inability to recover, then the head and shoulders pattern would become valid. But that's all part of the uncertainty and waiting for something to set up. I don't think there's much doubt someone or some group sold positions in here and took some profits, and that's caused price to come back here. And you've got supply here and demand here. So we'll just have to see which side is stronger, the buyers or the sellers, and see if something sets up that we can trade. Thank you very much for your time. Hopefully that was understandable. Thanks again. See ya.